Decentralized 2017. Welcome to Limassol. Dear colleagues, delegates, distinguished guests, on behalf of the University of Nicosia Blockchain Initiative, I would like to welcome you all to Decentralized 2017. We have all gathered here for these 2 full days with keynote talks, panel discussions, coffee breaks, drinks, cocktails, networking breaks to discuss the blockchain technologies. It's with great pleasure that I have seen this morning that we have almost 500 delegates registered for the conference from almost 30 countries all around the world. This high level of interest truly reflects the worldwide importance of blockchain technologies and their applications. Before closing, I would like to thank all our sponsors. I will start with the platinum sponsors, namely eToro, Microsoft, WSFIS and Finance and Investments, and Zen Protocol. Our gold sponsor, Trade.io, our silver sponsors, Abrosus, MAP, and Nomura Research Institute, as well as all of our media partners and supporters. Before passing the floor to my co-chair, Professor Giaglis, I would like to wish you all a wonderful and stimulating summit. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Institute for the Future at the University of Nicosia, it is my great honor and pleasure to welcome you to Decentralized 2017. These days mark the 9th anniversary since Satoshi Nakamoto proposed the design of a peer-to-peer electronic cash system he called Bitcoin. And oh God, what amazing 9 years these have been. Bitcoin has moved from being considered an obscure novelty for technology geeks or crypto anarchists to a legitimate investment asset, if not a legitimate new form of money. So much so that the CME Group, the largest provider of financial derivatives in the world, announced the day before yesterday that they are launching the world's first regulated Bitcoin future by the end of this year. And it is not only about Bitcoin. The world at large is starting to warm up to the idea that the technology behind Bitcoin, distributed ledger technology or blockchain, represents a fundamental breakthrough in how we can add trust in all sorts of internet applications. And coupled with advances in related technologies like artificial intelligence or the Internet of Things, this promises to revolutionize everything, from the way the global financial system is structured, to how insurance or health services are being provided, how commerce is going to be performed in the future, either by humans or by machines that are working on behalf of humans, and the list goes on and on. And it is against this backdrop and in these exciting times that we decided to organize Decentralized 2017. We're really proud that we have an impressive list of speakers and a huge crowd, and we're looking forward to spending the next 2 days with you, debating the future of blockchain applications, learning from each other, making new friends and colleagues, as we move to an era of maturity and mass adoption of blockchains. We will kick off the conference with 2 very influential speakers and 2 very interesting presentations that I think will set the scene for what is to follow later today and tomorrow. But before I introduce you to our keynote speakers, I would like to take a moment to thank all my colleagues at the Blockchain Initiative at the University of Nicosia for making everything that you see here possible. There are too many to mention by name, but Irini Patrekios, Nika Simenos, Kyriakos Anastaseu, Andreas Vlachos, and a number of other people with the help and guidance of Professor Louca have made everything this possible. Guys, we cannot thank you enough. Thank you very much. Our first keynote speaker for the morning will be our own Antonis Polemitis. Antonis is the CEO of the University of Nicosia since last summer. He has assumed all financial and administrative responsibilities for running the university. Prior to joining UNIC full-time, he sat at the board of trustees of the university for the past 7 years, and he has spent the last 20 years of his career living in Manhattan, New York, working as partner in private equity firms, focusing on financial services, technology, and education. Most relevant to our conference and the world of blockchain, Antonis has been the driving force behind the investment and the prioritization of academic initiatives at the University of Nicosia around digital currencies and blockchains. All these things that allow us to claim that we are the leading university in the world at the moment in terms of academic education around blockchains have been based on initiatives that Antonis started. Along with Andreas Antonopoulos, Antonis has also been teaching our very successful MOOC, the Introduction to Digital Currencies, since 2014, which I think qualifies him as the first person ever to have taught on blockchain at the academic level. So please join me in welcoming Antonis Polemitis.
Thank you, George. Thank you, everyone. I am delighted to be here today with all of you. This has been a dream of ours for several years, to pull together the virtual community that we've been working with since 2013 in person, so we can spend some time together in person. And I have to reiterate George's comments about how hard the team has worked, both the blockchain team itself, but also some of the other units at the university, including the marketing team, the production team, to help pull this, the events team, to help us pull this together. So we're super excited that everyone's here, and we look forward to repeating this every year. It's Decentralized 2017 for a reason, because next year it's going to be Decentralized 2018, and so on. So this will be the flagship event of our initiative. It is going to happen annually, and we hope it is going to become, for Southern Europe and the Mediterranean, a base for blockchain, cryptocurrency, and decentralization-related initiatives. I'd like to take about 20 minutes and cover 2 topics. Very briefly, how we got here, why we got here as a university, and then a little bit about why this is an important topic and why this conference is called Decentralized. All tech-related stories need a genesis story, and ours came on an afternoon in September 2013. I was on the phone with the CFO of the university, who's sitting there. He had asked me about a month earlier what this Bitcoin thing was, and I had looked at it a couple years earlier and said, oh, ignore it completely, it's terrible. It's all the guys who are worried the government's going to come take their gold and their guns, and don't spend any time thinking about it. And then, about a month later, he called me again and said, are you sure? And I found it interesting because he's super conservative. He's the guy who makes sure we don't run out of money at the university. And now it's the second time he's asking me, so I went and I downloaded the white paper and I downloaded the client and I bought one whole Bitcoin at $100, that's one. And I started playing around with this. I said, oh, wow, this is pretty interesting. And so it was Saturday afternoon. I was in downtown Manhattan where I lived. I called Christos Vlachos in Cyprus, so it was Saturday night, and said, I'm going to send you $20 worth of Bitcoin. So go here, download the software, press these buttons. And then I sent it to him, and he said, hey, I got it. And that reminded me of the exact moment I sent my first email. Because if I wanted to send $20 from New York to Cyprus on Saturday, I could not. And on Sunday, I could not. And on Monday, if I had sent it, it'd get there Wednesday. And our bank in New York, JP Morgan Chase, would charge us $40 to send $20 to Cyprus. It was clunky, it was annoying, you can lose all your money. I mean, the user experience is a complete mess. But once you've seen it, you realize there's no coming back. It's like logging on to CompuServe to sort of send your first email. It's an annoying process. It's probably faster at that point to go to your post office box and drop a postcard, but you know there's no going back. And so we started digging in as the university and eventually concluded what remains our conclusion, that this was a very significant breakthrough in distributed systems and computer science, and more important than that, it would lead to a whole set of other societal implications, which I'll come to later. We are very proud of the work done by the team. All we did at the board level was push and say, we'll support this. All the work's been done by the academic team and the administrative team that spends all day, all night thinking about it. And the track record, both academically and let's call it innovation-wise at the University of Nicosia on this topic has been impressive. We were the first to launch an academic course on the topic. We were the first to launch a degree program. We were the first to have graduates from a degree program. We were the first to accept Bitcoin for tuition. We were the first to publish academic certificates of any type on the blockchain in spring 2014. We were the first on a trial basis to publish diplomas on the blockchain in spring 2015. And I'm very happy to announce today, for the first time this is being made public, we're the first university in the world to publish every graduate's diplomas on the blockchain as of the graduating class of spring 2017. What's more interesting than the fact that we published them is the fact that the technology built to publish them was developed wholly internally from the research team of the blockchain group at the University of Nicosia. We had done a trial run 2 or 3 years ago, again internally developed, and this last year we rebuilt the whole platform from scratch and not only accomplished the headline piece, which says, oh, we published the diplomas, but addressing the real-life issues that happen when you actually do something. So you go to the registrar, and the registrar says, well, what if I need to change someone's name? Someone gets married, they need a change. So, and this will get minorly technical for a moment. We spent the summer looking at the 8 ways you can do revocation on a blockchain. And I think later this fall we'll be publishing a paper on that topic. We picked one of those 8 that we think is a very smart way to do it, and I haven't actually seen it done elsewhere. And this is what I feel we should be doing as a university, taking the theory, but then doing a little bit of putting it into practice, because there you discover more interesting problems. If you leave it at the very, very high concept level, you say, oh yeah, you can publish documents to the blockchain, but you discover the real difficulties when you actually do it. So this combination of theory and application is something we hope to continue, particularly as we start further ramping up our research team. So this group here includes both faculty and staff from our university, students in the program itself. I think we cleared 200 students in the master's in digital currency this fall, collaborators in industry and other folks just interested in the space, and particularly tomorrow we'll have some representatives from government as well. We've also launched this year a master's in computer science with a concentration in blockchain technologies that's more developer-oriented, and multiple professional certificates for people who are looking for a shorter experience. So I think we're in good shape in the core program, and now our goal is further international collaboration. We have multiple other universities that we've worked closely with speaking at this conference, including the immediate next speaker. And what we know is this is an endless space with endless opportunities, and we are very open to any form of partnership, academic, research, implementation, technological. And so the message from us to you is the University of Nicosia remains utterly committed to this topic. It is one of our 3 interdisciplinary initiatives, along with artificial intelligence and augmented and virtual reality, and by far the most developed of the 3. And so we are open for any types of forms of collaboration or partnership. Now, with that said, why does this matter? And it's something I've struggled with, not the part about why does it matter, but how do I explain it to a mixed audience? In my role, I meet a lot of people, and a lot of people that don't know anything about Bitcoin or blockchain, but who are otherwise important. And it's hard without spending an hour to try and explain why you're looking at this super important topic, and you end up getting very technical, and you say things like censorship resistance, and then no one really knows what you're talking about, right? So I've been thinking about this for a while, and I was thinking about this yesterday because we have a mixed audience here. We have some of the brightest people in the world in blockchain and people who wouldn't know a blockchain today if they ran across it in the street. And so what does it mean? Why should we care? And I'd like to try a new framework that I've never used before to think about this. Every one of us has a bundle of rights. Those rights might be economic rights, they might be usage rights, they might be political rights. What do I mean? I own an apartment in Nicosia. That's an economic right. I have the right to live in it, sell it, mortgage it, transfer it, what have you. I am a creditor of the Bank of Cyprus in my checking account for, I don't know, 20,000 euros. I have the right to redirect those payments, to withdraw them, to earn 1/10 of a percentage point of interest on them. I have the right to drive a car in Cyprus. I have the usage right tonight for a room here in the St. Raphael, but only for tonight. It's a limited usage right. I have a political right to vote in certain elections. And if you start thinking about it, all modern society is built on bundles of these rights, and they're quite sophisticated rights, and they're interchangeable. I could take money from my bank account and swap it for an occupancy right in the St. Raphael, subject to conditions and so on. With very limited exceptions, all of those rights today are mediated by centralized, trusted third parties. Someone is in charge, some organization is in charge of saying who has the right to be in room 132 at the St. Raphael. The trusted third party here is the reservation desk of the St. Raphael. Who has the right to sell this piece of land? The trusted third party there is the land registry of the Republic of Cyprus. Who has the right to receive a dividend from Microsoft? The trusted third party there, well, it's complicated. We're not going to get into settlement and clearing today. But all of those rights have trusted third parties who make these decisions. At the most abstract level, what Bitcoin solved and what you will see across multiple blockchains is how you can allocate those rights, how you can say who has which right, who can transfer those rights, how those rights are not duplicated, without someone in the middle, without a centralized party, without a trusted third party, in a decentralized manner, in a peer-to-peer manner. It is impossible for us sitting here to understand what a big deal this is. This is a bunch of people who know what a big deal it is, and yet we don't understand it because the whole nature of our society is built on this concept that you need a third party, you need an organization in order for it to function. And what blockchains and cryptocurrency, and particularly public blockchains, say is you don't. And what's that going to mean? I have 4 things in mind. One's the obvious one. It's the one you hear most. Well, transaction costs are going to go down. That's obvious, right? So by their nature, public blockchains are open 365 days a year, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And on the whole, I think we will see that transaction costs will drop. When you book a hotel, 20% of the price is not the electricity or the nice chandelier. It's the transaction cost through centralized third parties. So on the whole, transaction costs will go down. But that's arguably the least interesting part, because that's looking at it through the frame of our current business models, right? Our current business models have someone in the middle. That someone in the middle intermediates these rights and therefore needs to get paid, because they, of course, need to pay their bills. So it's true, when that someone in the middle becomes a network, the costs will go down. Not the most interesting thing, in my opinion. There's other things coming that are going to be more dramatic. Second bucket is what people call permissionless. Permissionless means there is no CEO of Bitcoin or compliance department of Bitcoin that you have to call up and say, I'd like to use Bitcoin for this usage case. Can I please fill out this form so you can approve the usage case? The greatest example of a permissionless system that we have seen in our lifetime is the internet. And what the internet was described as at the beginning, I'm just old enough to have caught that first revolution. I was like, oh, well, you know, it's like publishing, but anyone can do it, right? And that's what everyone thought. That was the generation one. That was like publishing. And of course, a lot of anxiety then. Wait, anyone can write anything they want? Who's going to be the editor of the internet? Right? I mean, it's laughable now, but I remember op-eds in the New York Times in the early 90s saying, well, what do you mean? Because print used to be something that went through a trusted third party, and getting something in print was a mark of validation, and so someone, you know, very serious, kind of like people we have at universities, would get to decide if your thing is worthy of print. It was in printed word. And there was a lot of anxiety of like anyone can write things and no one gets to, you know, copy edit them or tell them it's not good enough to be written. But that obviously is not where the internet stopped, right? It's not, we used to have printed books and now we have electronic books. 20 years later, we have Airbnb. And nobody in 1992 was thinking, yeah, now once I can move information about in a decentralized manner, you can invite strangers over to sleep on your couch, right? And if someone was in charge of the internet and said, I would like to launch Airbnb, they would have told them, you're out of your mind. And that's definitely a terrible idea. And our corporate legal department at Internet Inc. doesn't like the idea of strangers sleeping on your couch. So I'm sorry, but you can't do it. And so the greatest aspect of the internet isn't that it dropped transaction costs for information. It did. And that's very important. And that's why email costs a tenth of a penny and a letter still costs $2. It's important. But the biggest aspect was that it was permissionless. Here you have permissionless transactions. So arguably, that's a bigger concept, because in your day-to-day life, pre-internet, pre-blockchain, publishing in the written word was important, but it's only one part of the economy. Most of the economy, in fact, runs on transactions. So now you have a model where we can, without asking anyone, develop a drone that recharges with solar electricity from panels and pays for its solar electricity and doesn't have to ask anyone's permission if this is an appropriate use of resources. So the permissionless thing is going to be very, very important. But I have two more. This is going to change organizational design. Organizational design is linked inevitably to the technologies available to organizations. So let's say it is 1950 and you want to build a national level bank. What does your organizational design necessitate? Well, branches, right? Someone has to come in, deposit a physical check, get cash, and then of course that means branch managers and senior branch managers and regional VPs, and the whole mechanism of a big bank, and it also means consolidation, and it also means big organizations, and it means banking tends to be a relatively closed profession. And then you have the internet, and that's a change in technology, and that allows a different type of organization. It allows an online bank. It allows e-trade. It allows you to say, well, I still have senior VPs and all these things, but they're all in one location and they're in one building. And the way I get to my customers isn't by building marble lobbies and having people spread throughout the country. I reach them through the internet. And so what that led to was a new wave of firms across every industry that absolutely disrupted the traditional industries. Here, and it's hard to process, but it's real, you're now looking at a much more radical step, which is what's the bank without the bank? What's the booking.com without the booking.com? And an example I'd like to share with the group, some of you will know them, some of them won't, but I think one of the most interesting things going on right now in this space is a hedge fund called Numerai. Numerai is a 2-year-old hedge fund. And if you're going to launch a hedge fund in 2015, the kind of resource in short supply is data scientists. Because if you have a PhD from Cambridge and data scientist, Goldman Sachs will like very much to pay you $500,000 starting salary and $5 million in 3 years. And because Goldman Sachs has many billions of dollars and your new hedge fund doesn't, all the good data scientists are at Goldman Sachs and not at your good new hedge fund. So they said, oh, this is problematic. And they said, we're going to do this a little bit differently. We're not hiring data scientists. What they said is we're going to run an ongoing contest. We're taking the data we want analyzed, we're blinding it, we're anonymizing it, we're pushing it out for anyone to analyze, and they can put their predictions, and we will reward the folks whose predictions are most accurate with our token. And their token ended up developing some type of value, and they said more predictions, and more data scientists are giving their predictions. And today, this 2-year-old hedge fund, 2 years old, has had 30,000 data scientists that have made predictions on its data sets. This is something organizationally that is literally impossible outside of a blockchain token type economy. There's no way that it's economically feasible or administratively feasible for a 2-year-old firm to find, reward, manage, reward accurately 30,000 data scientists. In fact, there's no way for Goldman Sachs to do this for 30,000 data scientists. So what you're seeing, these are, I don't know if this hedge fund will be a success in the long run or not, but what you're seeing is a model of organizational design of networks that wasn't possible before. The fourth bucket, and I'll stop at 4 because no one's going to remember any more than 4. Second one of our priorities is artificial intelligence. And for those who are watching this space, it is a space that is very rapidly developing and that is going to be transformational over the next decade. My very simplistic view of this is how are the AIs going to communicate with each other, transact with each other, trade resources with each other? I can tell you it's not going to be with a debit card from JP Morgan Chase. Blockchains will be the economic substrate for the artificial intelligences. They're natively digital, they're natively programmable, they are the transaction layer of the internet, and so they will provide the foundation for the machine-to-machine economy. So let me wrap up because I have about 1 minute left. What we've done here, what has been done, then you'll see it roll out over time, we found a way to allocate rights without someone being in charge of allocating the rights. That means that the transaction costs of transactions will go down, number one. That means that we will see business models and ideas that we've never seen before because it's now open to anyone on a permissionless basis. That means we will see new forms of organizational design. And fourth, we will see this is what's going to be the substrate of the AI machine-to-machine economy. And I'll close on this sentence. If it is the case that we are decentralizing rights, because that's what we're doing, arguably what you will see is more freedom. Generally, the more rights are given, less centralization and governance leads to more freedom. So arguably what you will see is societal organizations in 5, 10, 15 years that are more free, more expansive, more accommodating of the full spectrum of human potential. That's why we're here. That's why the University of Nicosia is full bore behind this topic. And we look forward to the next 2 days and next 10 years with all of you. Thank you.